it. And thank you so much, everybody, for joining us tonight. I'm really excited to be able to present for you all. So I'm going to share my screen, and then Biko, if I could get a verbal like yes, that it's okay. Hang on one second. I don't do this every day. Yes, I do. All right. Share. How are we doing, Biko?
That looks great.
Thank you. And you can hear me okay, everybody?
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So welcome, everybody, and thank you so much for joining me on this little journey through my photography career and how I got to where I am today. Like Biko said, my name's Jessica, and I graduated in 2011, which maybe a couple days ago, I was like, oh my God, that was 10 years ago. Oh. But it's nice to be back and to be included in events like these. So thank you so much, Biko. I want to thank Chi Delta Theta and Sigma Lambda Gamma for hosting this event today. That is how most of you have learned about this event. So I just wanted to shout them out and give them thanks. And then thank you to Community Grants for also contributing to this as well. All right, so my name is Jessica and I'm a photographer. And it took me a very long time to be able to say that because I didn't think I was a photographer for so long. And if you want to reach out to me on social media, I have my Instagram there, it's Jessica0H. If you want to reach out to me via email, feel free to. If you have like questions that come up during this event, you're welcome to, you could drop them in the chat and then we get to them at the end, or we'll do some Q&A if you had any questions for me. If you want to follow me on LinkedIn, I also have that as well. So like Biko mentioned earlier, I am an art graduate from UCSB. So I've got my Bachelor of Arts in Art. And my field or my study was visual art. And it was mostly painting, drawing, and printmaking. A little bit of photography here and there, but I didn't really start doing photography more seriously until after college. So I just wanted to start off with a little story. I was riding the train from San Diego. I live in San Diego, and that's where I'm from. And I was riding the train back to UCSB, and it was a busy weekend. Maybe it was Thanksgiving or something, so everyone was coming back, and the train was packed. And so I ended up having to sit in a 4-person compartment. Usually those are reserved for groups or families. And I ended up sitting with these 2 freshman guys and a traveler from France. And friendly conversation started going, and the traveler asked us what we were studying in school. And the 2 guys were like, oh, I'm studying business. And the other one's like, I'm in an engineering program. And I said, I'm in the art program. And the traveler says, oh, okay, what kind of stuff do you do in art? And I explained one of my last assignments for one of my classes was to create a sculpture made from recycled materials. And in a very condescending tone, this guy says, oh, so like useful stuff. And that really stuck with me. I was taken aback, like, excuse me, you know, but I also didn't know what to say either. I don't remember whatever happened after that, but I just remember thinking like, oh gosh, like that was kind of mean. And, you know, it's one of those sentences that stays with you, right? It affected me. So I thought about that a lot. And it's interesting because this class, that sculpture class that I took was probably my second art class that I took. And it was after being undeclared for 2 years in college because I didn't know what to do until I finally took one art class and I was like, oh, it was like the clouds opened up and I was like, this is where I was supposed to be this whole time. Oh, who'd have known? Art. So I felt like I was excited. I finally found a program. And then for this guy to say that thing to me was like, just didn't rub me the right way, right? So this was my sculpture that I made. It's made out of recycled boots, and I called it the shoenicorn because it was made from shoes. And I actually got really high marks. My critique went really well. My classmates liked it. My TA really liked it. And yeah, that was my project. So that's what I was talking about. So I was surprised I even had this picture. So I just wanted to share this creation with you. So in college was kind of where my photography interest really blossomed. And we had a photography class in college, but it wasn't very practical. It was more theoretical, like you might find at university. And I took a lot of art classes. My mentor, he ended up being my mentor, was Kip Fulbeck. He was a teacher, or he's a professor there at UCSB. And in one of his lectures, I remember him talking about a student that he had or something that was trying to, I think, skip or leave his class early, his art class early, to make sure he did his biology thing or something like that. And Kip was like, well, I mean, I really need you to be in this class. And the student said something like, oh, well, I have a biology thing to do. This is just art, or something like that. And Kip's response was something like, yeah, but you're saying that to somebody who thinks art is the most important thing in the world. And after he said that, I was re-inspired, because all I was thinking about before that was, oh, so you're doing useful stuff, right? And then I found in my professor that he thought the same way I did, that art is the most important thing in the world. And so that kind of re-sparked my love for art and to continue doing my craft. And it made me remember that I'm where I'm supposed to be. So in college, I really enjoyed like graffiti. I enjoyed street art. So those were the kind of things that I would take photos of. And then I also started this little project of taking pictures of things hanging from people's cars. It's kind of like a personal thing, and also it's in a public space. So I thought it was this really interesting thing. Anyway, here's one picture of a turtle that I made look like it was in the grass. So this was a little project that I had. It was also in college. It was called Writing on the Bathroom Walls. And this was my final project that I did for that class. This one says, okay, so that's Derek. Remember the guy I was telling you about, the one that kept giving me the same line over and over again, Derek. And I remember seeing these scribblings in the bathroom, and like, who's saying these things? And I liked the anonymity of it. I thought it was interesting. I was intrigued. Like, who's leaving these little notes, you know? It kind of reminded me of Post Secret. I'm very much a fan of Post Secret, and I still look at it every single week to see what new secrets come up. It's like anonymously leaving a little mark, right? So these are just a few other images from that series. And this one, I also got very high remarks from my classmates. And in this class, I believe that the way I presented my final project was through a website. Some people did prints, some people made books, and I like built a little website to show everything. And not only was my TA present, but our teacher for the class or our lecturer for the class is also present. And he also had very nice things to say about my imagery. So he was like, yeah, these are beautiful. And so that also was I felt acknowledged, and it helped kind of still push me to go into the direction I was going as far as photography. So this is I would consider this photo shoot that I did in college my first gig, because I was asked by one of my friends, one of my classmates. Her name's Crystal Tran. She was just finishing cosmetology school at this time, and she reached out to me because she knew that I had a camera. She knew that I was taking pictures, and asked me if we could work together to create content for portfolios. And so we worked together on this project. We had myself as the photographer, we had Crystal as the makeup artist, and we had a stylist as well as our model here. And it's funny to look back on these photos because there are things that I see that I'm like, oh, I would never do this now, you know, things that just I've learned over the years. If you want to follow Crystal, you can follow her on Instagram here. And Crystal she's a very successful makeup artist and has worked with a lot of celebrities that we know. She's worked with Dave Franco a bunch of times. I think she's done grooming for Conan and grooming for Guillermo del Toro. And I believe she even worked with Cindy Crawford, which is like, that's pretty amazing. She's worked with so many really famous celebrities. And it's nice to think about our humble beginnings at this girl's house in front of her garage, you know? So it's kind of cool to know that that's kind of where we kind of started. And I mean, some of the photos came out pretty cool. I like the way that this one, the results of this one. But yeah, so kind of humble beginnings. And I would consider that to be my first gig ever. And I didn't get paid for it. No, we didn't pay each other for it. We were in college. We didn't have any money, you know, but it's kind of cool that we all use these for our portfolios. And I wanted to show you a video of one of my projects. I hope it goes well. We tried earlier, right, Pico? So hopefully you get music. If it's loud, turn your music down or whatever you need to do. It's only a couple minutes, and we'll move on after that. It did the thing we were supposed to not to do. Anyway, we thought we had figured that out. Anyway, so that's a video that I made that was part of one of my final projects in school. It was a sticker street art project that I started, and it's for this project that I created called Project #Becky Mabunai. And Becky was one of my friends in high school, and at the end of 2011, we actually lost her to a DUI accident. And I think about it now because it's now 2021, and like college, it's about to be 10 years, which is just wild to me. So I created this project to keep Becky's memory alive and have her travel the world through social media and through photography. So this is part of this project, and I just wanted to share this here. So this middle photo that you see was posted by one of my friends, Christian. She had a sticker and she brought it with her to Twin Peaks, San Francisco. She posted that sticker on a telescope there and took her photo and posted it. And then I posted it on my account for this project. And then a couple weeks later, my cousin, Vladi, and his family, they actually found that same telescope and took a photo with it. So it was really cool to actually see this project become more than just me and to connect more than just myself. So it is a project that is still ongoing. So if anybody that's here tonight would like to participate in that project, email me your shipping address and I'll send you some stickers so that you can help Becky continue to travel the world. So after college, I came back to San Diego. I came back home, and I think I was working as like a tutor for a little while after coming home, and I did my first art show. This was with Raw Artists San Diego. You can see that I brought my Becky project with me, and I had stickers there for people to take as well. So this was the first art show that I did outside of school. And I showed my paintings, and I don't remember if I sold any paintings this night, but they were for sale. But it was my first time to present as an artist outside of school. And I had a lot of support. I had a lot of friends, and it was really nice to be able to share these moments with friends. And I did want to talk about a specific friend of mine, Mark Andrew. So Mark Andrew was a award-winning wedding photographer here in San Diego. And he had this Fuji camera with him all the time. You can see it, he's holding it here. It's around his neck with a really fancy leather strap. And whenever we'd hang out, even if it was just at like a friend's house, he would have it with him. And I would always admire this. It was such a cute camera. And I'd be like, oh, can I play with it? And can I wear it to see what it looks like as an accessory? Super cute. And he kept telling me when I would ask to play with it, he was like, why don't you just buy one? Just buy one for yourself, you know? And I was like, we'll see. And he taught me a lot of what I know about photography. He was like very well loved in our group of friends. He was like everybody's best friend, including mine. And so on my birthday in 2014, he came with me to George's Camera here in North Park, and we went and bought me that camera. So I had saved up a bunch of money, and I went to go buy this camera. A sales associate named Linda was the one who sold it to me. And when we bought it, it was the most expensive thing I had ever bought at that time. And I think those of us either, right after college can remember like your biggest purchase or whatever after your first job or whatever it was. So it was a big deal to have bought this camera. And when we bought the camera, he looks me in the eyes and he's like, Jessica, promise me that you'll never shoot on auto. And I was like, okay, I don't know what that means. But he's to me. And we ended up taking this trip to the Pacific Northwest, to Portland and Seattle. And it was during this trip that I learned a lot about that camera specifically, and then also about photography. This is probably one of my favorite photos I've ever shot. This is at Eloa Falls in Oregon. And I had him stand there next to that waterfall for a decent amount of time because I was trying to make sure I framed everything correctly to get this shot. And when he finally came back, he was soaking wet and he was like, "Let me see what you got." And he was like, "Wow, that's an amazing shot." And he really helped build my confidence with this, because being such a new form of art and new form of self-expression, I was very insecure about it. And he really helped build that confidence by giving me feedback on some of my images. And I definitely felt like Erykah Badu in with those lyrics where she's like, "Now keep in mind, I'm an artist and I'm sensitive about my shit." And so that's kind of how I felt. That's how I felt creating this whole presentation. But he did give me that confidence. Oopsies. This one was taken in Seattle. Oh, wait, I did want to go back really quick to this photo. So one of the things that he helped teach me or helped me to learn was about composition, which is basically the way that you arrange the elements within your photo. And one of the things that he shared with me was that you can find ways of framing your subject. And so you can see here, there's this little, hole in the path that's created by these trees. And so I told him to stand there and I was able to frame him within my setting. And then the same is seen here. So this is Seattle, and we were walking by and I just happened to see this opening between the buildings. And so I was like, "Hey, can you go up there? Can you stand up there?" So he had to walk up all of these steps, stairs on stairs on stairs, and climb up that ledge to stand there for me. And he was my model for this. We had a great time, and we went on a lot of adventures. That Pacific Northwest trip was probably the start of my travel bug. And then just like Becky, Mark Andrew's no longer with us in the physical world. We also lost him to an accident, and didn't think I was gonna get choked up. Let me take a breath. Okay. So fortunately for some, he was an organ donor. And so he donated his heart and even his corneas. And we were talking amongst our friends that, hey, that's so crazy. Like, somebody has his corneas. What if you're just walking on the street and you locked eyes with somebody and like you're like looking at his eyes again? We thought that was really cool. But yeah, so whenever I talk about myself as a photographer or somebody that does photography, I always have to include him because he's a huge part of that identity for me. And because I had this travel bug, after he passed, I was more motivated to pursue my appreciation and joy with photography. I felt like every time I picked up a camera, I was in his presence. I remembered the lessons that he taught, and I never shoot on auto. And so photography was like a way that I would still get to be with my friend. So this is a photo from Australia. And again, like I said, I got this like travel bug. And so I started to document my travels. And this is on one of the beaches there in Australia. And I actually went with 2 Chidelts. I went with my little sis, Carol Nguyen, and her grand little sis, so my great grand little sis, Carol Ignacio. So we took this trip together to Australia. And it was nice and fun because we got to document it really well. And then I think that also helped me continue with my love for street art. So I started to categorize myself as like a travel street photographer. Liked travel photography and I liked street photography and I liked street art and I liked leaving a little bit of street art. So you can see I left Becky there to take a look at the Sydney Opera House. This is just a New York scene. This is Dashe. She's also a local creative here in San Diego. She DJs. This is the one, I think they call it the One World Trade Center. So it was shortly after it was built. And I stood right next to it and just looked up and was like, hey, a triangle. Oh, and then also Mark Andrews, his photography logo was a set of triangles. So it's kind of nice to see triangles everywhere. Also, triangles just make for really good composition if you are shooting photos. And this is his logo. And a lot of us, like our friends and his family, we all have this so that he can always stay close to us. This is in Minneapolis. So again, that kind of travel bug hit me. And it was fun to document the travel with the photography. Tokyo, believe that this is in Shibuya. I just liked crowded streets and a lot of people. It's like a city that's alive. And this is probably another one of my favorite all-time photos that I've ever taken. This one is in Shinjuku, Tokyo, and I just love the mood. It's nighttime, but the city is still alive. This guy he looks like he just got off of work and he's got this mask on. And it's funny now because masks are sort of normal, but when I was in Asia and Japan, it was different to see people wearing masks. And then at the beginning of 2016 was the first time, so I had done lots of art shows, but this particular art show, it was called Top Artists, was the first time that I showed as a photographer. So I printed images that I shared, and it was, the first time I felt comfortable identifying as a photographer was when I did my first show. Also in 2016, I took a black and white film photography class at San Diego City College. And this sparked my appreciation for film. This is what's called a photogram, and it's done in the dark room. During that same time that I started school, I also got hired to work at George's Camera, where I bought my first camera with Mark Andrew. And I got hired to work as a sales associate. I think they also needed help in the lab. And one thing I do remember was in my interview, the manager that was interviewing me, he was like, I hate to ask this, but how do you feel about being a woman in this industry? And he's like, I only ask because we do get customers every now and then that might treat you differently because you're not a man. I don't remember how I answered that. I probably just said, I don't know, I'll do my best. But it's an interesting thing to have to think about, right? And it does make me think about some of the experiences that I've had working retail, working in the camera or photography industry. I'd answer the phone and I'd be like, hey, this is Jessica, how may I help you? And the person on the phone is like, yeah, can I talk to sales? And I'm like, yeah, how can I help you? I don't know if that's automatic. I don't know if it would be different experience if a man picked up the phone. But to me, it happened fairly often. And I think any of the other females or women as my coworkers in that realm could also be like, yeah, I've also had that too. I've been called the secretary before. I've, been working with a customer and then they would default to looking at and talking to my male coworker, even though I was already helping them. So it has been an interesting experience as far as that goes. In 2018, I went to an event called the Pro Convention, which is basically a convention with all the specialty camera stores. They go and they have these like talks and classes and things like that. And I went with my coworker, Linda, the person who sold me my camera a few years before. And we went there. She's also of Asian descent. And when I went, we were in huge crowds, auditoriums filled with people. And I cannot help but notice, how many other women are here? Well, also I noticed how many other people of color are here. And the number is small, Also, it's similar in many other industries. And it's impossible for me to not notice stuff like that. I remember sharing that with my manager after the fact, and I was like, oh yeah, it was really interesting. It was kind of cool being a woman, and then also being a woman of color. I was a very small minority there, and my manager is like a cis white male, and he's like, oh my gosh, I didn't even think about that. And I'm like, of course you didn't think about that, because you're represented everywhere. You don't ever have to think about that. So it's just, again, something that I notice, and it's something that I talk about with my colleagues. But yeah, it's just an interesting part of my role and part of this industry that, I hope that during my time, we can see some evolution within that. And I think one time I got my like panties in a bunch one time over something. I don't even know what it was. It doesn't even matter anymore. And my partner, Sean, he was like, hey, just don't worry about it. And, um, just focus on yourself. And he said something so profound to me. And he was like, just be great, watch them hate. And I was like, where did you get that from? Like, where'd you hear that from? He's like, it just came out of my mouth. I didn't get it from anywhere. And I was like, well, we need to put it on a t-shirt or something. So with all that being said, the only person that you have to compete with is you from yesterday, right? So just be great and watch them paint. So as far as film photography goes, film was also a way for me to start a different personal narrative, if you will. And I started thinking about like myself and identity and family. This is an old photo. That's my grandmother, my paternal grandfather, or my paternal grandmother and grandfather. And this is my dad right here. So I just tried to take photos of like my family, where I come from, because with film, it's just like a different new process for me. And I am my mother's hands. So on the left is my grandmother's hands, my paternal grandmother. And on the right is my mother's hands. She is preparing some food. And I just love that kind of definitive moment of like right before the scissors cut. Like everyone knows what's happening after that, right? But I just like that feeling there. This is my grandmother, my maternal grandmother in the Philippines. So even with film, I was thinking about travel. And then again, another photo of my grandmother. She's in the Philippines now, and she's in her 90s. So when I was there a couple years ago, I was like, I'm going to take as many pictures as I can. But yeah, so travel still got into the mix with my film stuff. This is in San Francisco. And I did live in San Francisco for a short time. I lived in SF for about a year. And I did end up working at Sammy's Camera, so another camera store. I was a featured artist at 1090 Gallery, and I even co-directed an all-women photography show that at that time was the most attended show that they had ever put on, which that was one of my achievements while I lived up there. And this was my first show that I ever showed in another city. And again, I have a lot of support and a lot of friends. And all of these people here that you see, these are all Chidelts. So I also wanted to share that love and support that we have for each other, even after college, right? They all came out and it was kind of like a little reunion for us here. I was so happy that night to just have people that I cared about enjoying and supporting myself and my art. Which brings me to my role now. So last year, a little over a year ago, I got hired to be a camera product educator for Canon. I actually got hired at the beginning of March in 2020, and we all know what happened then. So the role was supposed to be a lot of travel, and it was a lot of work from home. So the cool thing about this role was that I had the flexibility of my time to be able to do more of the stuff that I enjoyed doing, which was photography. Working retail, I worked 9 to 5, and I don't really have a lot of free time to like go out and do shoots and stuff. So I feel very fortunate that I'm in this role. I have some teammates and coworkers here. So hi, thanks for coming. Love you guys. But with this role came a bunch of new opportunities for me to explore. I also was able to use gear that, was just coming out. So this is my sister, Sam. She is also in here. Hello. Yeah, if she looks similar to me, it's because we're related. And this was right after the EOS R5 came out. It's one of our really popular cameras. And I just hit her up and was like, hey, I want to try out this new eye autofocus feature. Like, can I take pictures of you? So we just hung out at Balboa Park and I was like, let me shoot your portraits. So I took some photos of her. She let me. It was mostly just us hanging out and I just happened to be taking pictures of her. And I really like the end results of these. And I would say that this would probably started my interest in portrait photography and portrait work. Where's my mouse? This was a photo that I came across on like Reddit or something. It's called the Dancer Nikolska by Nelly. And I saw this and I was like, ooh, that's really cool. I would like to do something similar to this somehow. Since it was titled The Dancer, I was like, I know a dancer. And I reached out to her and was like, hey, would you be down to shoot sometime? I just want to, practice and I have an idea. I want to capture movement. So we met at Balboa Park and she just kind of did her thing as a dancer and I just snapped photos. And one thing that I wanted to do was have her be comfortable in front of the camera. She has done photo work before, so it wasn't anything new, but it was the first time that she had worked with me. So I want to make sure that she was comfortable. If you want to follow her, that's her Instagram handle right there. So she was just dancing, doing her thing, and I was snapping photos. And I really enjoy the results that came from it. So this was the image that I wanted to kind of imitate with that, the dancer Nikolska. And I don't know about you guys, I think I did pretty good. I think turned out all right. After I started doing more portrait work on my own, I started to get requests for doing portraits. And so this is my fiance's sister. This is Asia. And she came to visit us last year and asked if I would take photos for her. And I was happy to, because it gave me more practice and it gave her some images that she can use for content. This was a shoot that I did in October time, and I was like, I want to do something really spooky and weird. And so I reached out to one of my old classmates from San Diego City College. Her name is Karen, and I wanted to work with flowers. So I reached out to my friend Paula, who is a local florist. She does flowers and florals for weddings. And we talked about it, and she had ideas. And then she brought her sister along to do makeup. So it was kind of like similar to my gig that I did in college, where we had a whole team, and these were the end results of that shoot. And I really like the results of these as well. This is one of my favorites because it is this weird perspective, and it's because I used a fisheye lens, so one of those really big wide lenses. This was a photo assignment that I did within our team. We were tasked to go to the dollar store and use stuff that we found from the dollar store to get creative. So I found a pack of googly eyes, and this is the result of those. Had a lot of fun. So this dollar store challenge is actually one of the classes that my coworker Heather created. If you want to follow her, this is her Instagram handle. And if you are interested in taking this class, I know that we are teaching it next Friday. So if anybody wants that link, I'm happy to share that with you too. And I had extra googly eyes, so I was putting them on everything. I also started collecting plants last year because I was home all the time, and I was like, I want some plants to just brighten my mood in my house. So I got interested in plant photography or botanical portraits. I even teach a class called Botanical Portraits as well. If anybody wants to learn about shooting plants, you let me know. And then again, just taking little critters, doing these little creative assignments just for myself. If anybody is a Studio Ghibli fan, these are the little tree spirits from Princess Mononoke. That was probably my favorite out of the movies. And I just wanted to share a few more botanical portraits with you. This is at the San Diego Botanic Garden. And the last time I was there, I had one goal in mind. I was like, I just really want a nice picture of a bee. I think bees are adorable. And I was like, I'm going to try to get some pictures of bees. And I think I was successful. I think I got some good shots of this bee. I think I was successful in getting a picture of a bee. I got a membership, so I will go back, and I'm probably going to shoot more pictures of bees because I think they're cute. I also liked to get creative as well. This is what's called an in-camera multiple exposure. So it's actually 2 pictures in one. This is my pledge sister, Ashley. I see you, Janelle. Yes, I knew it. Yeah. So this is Ashley. We hung out at the Botanic Garden one weekend, and I had her model for me. And I just liked the way that this palm frond matched right there with her head, with her face. So I like to get a little creative with some of these photos. And I really got interested in macro, or really like up close shots of stuff. This is a purple shamrock, and they go to sleep at night. So when the sun goes down, they actually close up. And so there's like these super cute little plants. And then speaking of macro, I've even had the opportunity to use some really cool macro lenses. I like this photo because it looks like an abstract painting to me. And really it's just the edge of a dead leaf. So collecting all these plants, not all of them survived. And I saw this dead leaf and I was like, I'm just gonna take really up close pictures of it. And I like the end result. Can anybody guess what this is? This is probably one of my first photos. You can put it in the chat, but yeah, so this is a very up close photo of a pistachio. To me, this was very Georgia O'Keeffe-like. And then it's just been fun doing these up close shots. And this is just 2 matches. To me, it almost looks like people, feels like people. In addition to the stuff that I enjoy doing, I also got hired to do some gigs over the last year. So this is this guy here, his name is Alan, and he hired me to take some lifestyle shots of his clothing. He has a brand called No Good Brand, and he was releasing some new shirts. So he hired me to get some shots of his products. I also did another product shoot with my best friend. This is Geminel. She's been my best friend since the 1st grade. So we've known each other a very long time. And I wanted to show you this photo as an example of something that a client wants. She was using these for her website. So she requested that I take a photo with a lot of empty space so that they can have text or whatever in that space. So just an example of kind of working with your clients and giving them what they need. Just another detail shot that I like. This is her with her husband. Got the details of the embroidery on there. I just love this shot because it looks like they are about to start recording for their next album. It just worked out really well as far as where we were in this really cool location. And then I also did extra flat lace for her, which was a lot of fun and another good working experience for me to shoot some product. This is one of the last photo shoots that I did. I think I did this back in February, March. This is my cousin-in-law. So my cousin, this is her husband, and he has this really cool 72 Chevelle SS, and he took a photo with it, and I reached out to him and was like, hey, would you mind if I got some photos of you and your car? And he was like, oh, I would love that. And so we got together. The clouds were perfect this day because it was about to storm. Didn't storm yet, but it was coming. And we just got really lucky with the clouds. He was a natural in front of the camera. But again, just like my approach with working with a lot of my other portrait sessions, my goal is for my model or subject to be comfortable. And in order to do that, basically what I do is just have a conversation with them. And within that conversation, I just happen to be taking pictures. And sometimes I'll just direct them very slightly, you know, like, oh, can you just turn your head a little bit to your right and chin up, or whatever it is. So I really appreciate the process of just like getting to know who I'm working with. This is another angle that I really liked. I actually fell over trying to get this shot because I had to go really close to the ground. Well, whatever it takes to get the shot, that's what Mark Andrew always said. Yeah, I just love the way that these colors turned out, and it was a lot of fun. Also, I want to shout out my coworker, Jeff. He's on this call, and I called him and was like, hey, can you give me any tips on how to do like car photos? And he gave me some really great tips, like make sure nothing is sticking out on the sides, and you can get some really weird angles like this one here, which I used a very wide angle lens to get that kind of funky feel and look to it. He's also a local creative. He also does DJing nearby. So if you want to follow him, that's his handle. And then also, I didn't happen to see this. My coworker Cassie actually saw it. She is also here. Hi, Cassie. But in an internal like Best Buy community that we're part of, they actually had this photo as my featured photo of the week, which is kind of cool. And she shared that with me. I was like, oh, no way, that's awesome. So it's kind of fun. And then speaking of shared work, my photo with the dancer was actually published in our local newspaper. So she called me or texted me one day and was like, hey, somebody's writing an article about me in the newspaper. Would it be okay if we used your photo? And I said, as long as my name is on there, yeah, go for it. And so we put that together, we made that happen. And on March 14th, 2021, my photo was used for this article in the San Diego Union Tribune. And you can see here it says photo by Jessica Oropesa. So I did get the proper credit. My other concern was, oh, well, this is online, but is it also in print? Because that would have been cool, but maybe, I don't know if all like articles get to print. I don't know how newspapers work. I didn't even know where to get a newspaper. So luckily my partner was able to find me a couple. He bought 2, and it was really cool to open it up and find the photo in there. It was cool because the photo was a lot larger than I expected. I thought it was just going to be a small one, but it was almost half the page. And because it was a Sunday newspaper, it was in color. So that was also really exciting. And now I can say that I'm a published photographer. So it's really fun to, you know, back at the beginning, my humble beginnings at UCSB, to published in the newspaper photographer. Kind of cool, I guess. So my takeaways from this presentation, I do thank you all for joining me tonight. I'm so happy that I see a lot of familiar faces and names. But my takeaways are, I get by with a little help from my friends. Thank you to, you know, Becky and Mark Andrew, who are no longer with us. They helped me create some really awesome projects, and they are with me when I make these things. So I thank them. I thank my friends for coming out to support at my art shows and here for events like this. And then just like my partner Sean says, just be great, watch them hate. You don't need to worry about what other people think. Just focus on you and doing your best, and then just making sure that you're better than who you were yesterday. So with that said, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate all of you for attending this event. Thank you to Biko, thank you to Chi Delta Theta and Sigma Lambda Gamma, and the UCSB community for hosting this. I had a lot of fun. I made it just in the hour mark, so yay! I was really scared I was gonna go over time because I had a lot of stuff. Anyway, there's my contact info. Please reach out to me. I would love to connect with you. Find me on social media. I like being able to connect with new friends. So with that said, I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing my screen. Did it work? Yay, okay, cool. Yes. Awesome. So thank you guys so much. I guess, I don't know if we have time, but if anybody has any questions for me, I'm happy to answer any.
We can take one question if anyone has something in mind right now.
Cool. Yes, go ahead, Stephanie.
Okay, I just changed it.
I think you can unmute yourself now.
Hi, I have 2 questions. One of them is really quick, so I hope I'm just gonna make everyone stay and listen to both. My first question is, especially like in this past year, have you ever had moments where you like really doubted like your work and like had trouble finding inspiration, especially being under quarantine and like being unable to travel? And then my second question is, where would you like to travel and photograph when we're out of here?
Yeah. The answer to your first question is yes, absolutely. We've definitely had a weird year. My coworker, Heather, taught me about this word called languishing, which is kind of like this in-between mental state of like, I'm not really depressed, but I'm also not really that joyous either. It's kind of like that in between. And I definitely had those moments during quarantine. I still experience them now. I do what I can, like I take pictures of my plants at home and put googly eyes on them. So I do find ways. And then as far as the traveling, I would like to go to New Zealand and take some like really amazing landscape photos over there. Sean and I just started watching Lord of the Rings from the beginning, the extended edition. So we've been watching that, and I'm like, I just want to go to New Zealand. So I want to go there, and then I also want to go to Nintendo World in Japan because that would be fun. Yeah. Oh,
Thank you.
thank you, Stephanie. Thank you for your question.
Thank you, Steph. If you have any more questions, feel free to hit up Jessica on Instagram or, Venmo her something too. And then I will now share my screen for the raffle.
Are we allowed to talk?
Congrats, Letty.
Yay!
That's so awesome.